Today we're talking about the pelvis. The pelvis, you probably have heard of pelvic pain or sacroiliac pain, even pelvic floor dysfunction. So these are some conditions that we see here at Woodlands Family Chiropractic. So Dr. Wyatt, can you just walk us through some of the structures of the pelvis and what that actually looks like for the patients?
So one of the primary structures of the pelvis is the sacrum. It's the very bottom segment of your spine. We have the ilia on each side, and they come together and actually form the pubis. So we can have pain both in the front and the back side of the pelvis. Lots of patients will call this their hip, and so it gets a little confusing sometimes, but when we have these types of challenges, it can really affect things like walking and running and also sitting. If you sit for any period of time, like you're doing a bunch of desk work or phone work, when your sacrum and your ilium motion segment's not moving properly, it can really affect the ability to sit.
And part of that is symmetry. These bones are supposed to be symmetrical, and we should have symmetrical movement with them. Again, how people sit is not just sitting itself, but how people sit, and they sit in funny positions, or they sit on a big fat wallet. You know, they're sit on a foot, or even being twisted in their seat. Again, we see a lot of runners with sacroiliac joint problems. Again, that front part, when you don't actually adjust that front part of the spine or the pelvis, but through moving those bones, it repositions that pelvic joint, which again, you know, with a lot of our pregnancy-related patients, we want a good balance and function to the pelvis itself. Again, you brought a good point up about the hip. The hip joint, actually the ball and socket joint, if you'll hold that up, you can see the ball and socket joint of the hip, so we can understand why people call that their hip, but it's so close in proximity. There's a lot of pain generators with the pelvis joint itself. So in a different section, we'll talk about actually the ball and socket joint of the hip.